have in front of me your latest press release. Taxpayers can't afford PSAC's demands. That stands for the Public Service Alliance of Canada. They want a raise of $9.3 billion. Is that right?
Over 3 years, they're pushing for up to 47% compensation increase. And you're right, over those 3 years, that would cost taxpayers $9.3 billion. So you ask if it's reasonable. No, it's not reasonable. It's unreasonable. It's unaffordable. And it's unsustainable. Folks, just let that sink in for a second. $9.3 billion hit to the taxpayer over 3 years. Now, I don't know about you, Ezra, but I don't know too many people out there who could afford this type of hit, right? How many Canadians right now are at the grocery store wondering if they can afford the package of ground beef or the jug of milk? How many Canadians are out there right now who are worried whether they can afford to fuel up their car with gasoline? Or how many Canadians out there are worried about losing their homes as mortgage payments go up? And now you have some government union negotiators in Ottawa demanding up to 47% compensation increase over 3 years for a total cost of $9.3 billion.
Yeah. $9.3 billion, it sounds like an enormous amount, but we're used to billions and even the occasional use of the word trillion. But when you break it down to the individual level, that's when it gets shocking. Let me quote from your press release. Compensation for each full-time federal employee is $125,300 on average when pay, pension, and other benefits are added up, according to the parliamentary budget officer.
Crazy. Eye-popping.
$125,000, and that's before they get their raise. This is the new ruling class. This is the one percenters. I mean, doctors, lawyers, professionals. No. You're a government bureaucrat. You're making $125,000 a year on average. That's shocking. And they want a raise on top of that.
It's the makers versus takers, isn't it? The makers versus takers. And let's not forget what happened over the last couple of years, right? If you were a private sector taxpayer, you may have lost your job. You may have taken a pay cut. You may have even lost your small business. As we look forward, we talked about how people are really struggling to afford the necessities. How many small businesses are worried about a possible recession that's right around the corner? Well, what happened behind those golden government gates? Federal government employees, more than 300,000 federal bureaucrats, received at least one raise during the pandemic. Ezra, that's anywhere from 93 to 98% of all federal bureaucrats received at least one raise during the pandemic. Not to mention, the feds have dished out more than $500 million in bonuses during the pandemic years. So you have bureaucrats who are not even worried about missing a raise or a bonus, demanding huge compensation increases from taxpayers who are worried about missing meals.
Yeah. You know, so many people in the private sector, whether it was restaurant owners or gym owners or retail shops, were crushed. And I always said, and people were skeptical, I said, there are some people who love this pandemic. They're the government class, the lockdown class. Not one of them lost a dime. So a lot of them didn't go to work, but they got paid nonetheless. The craziest thing, though, Franco, about your press release, it's this section. Let me just read the top of it, and I'd love you to tell our viewers. The non-wage benefits PSAC has demanded include, and then you've got a list. So the money is, of course, what most people immediately gravitate to. These guys are making $125,000 on average, and they want a huge raise. All right. But why don't you take us through some of these cuckoo crazy, like nutty as a Snickers bar demands, and you know they're going to get them. Take us through some of these crazy non-wage benefits. And I think a lot of people in real life don't even have non-wage. Okay, you got health and dental maybe, but why don't you list some of these crazy things here they're demanding?
So in the real world, in the real world, you were to ask your boss for some of these non-wage benefits that I'm about to list for you, you'd get laughed out of the office. These are so crazy. One of them is bureaucrats want more money if they work past 4 p.m. And this is for program and administrative services. Who in the office job isn't working past 4 p.m.? And these federal bureaucrats want more money to work past 4 p.m. Here's another one. These government union negotiators are pushing for an education fund for laid off employees of up to $17,000. Okay, let me list a few more. They want paid time off of 2 weeks or of 75 hours, annually. They want accrual of 4 weeks vacation after only 4 years of service. They want overtime paid at double time. And Ezra, we can dive into this, but this is the craziest one of them all. They want taxpayer-funded contribution into a union-controlled social justice fund, which engages in, quote, advocacy for progressive public policy. Now, Ezra, Canadians have a right to advocate for what they believe in, but you don't use government negotiations to take taxpayers' money so that you can fund your advocacy.
That was an excerpt from the Ezra Levant show. I'm Ezra Levant. Every weekday, I do a monologue about the topic of the day. Then I interview a fascinating guest either in studio or via Skype. And then I read your mail, whether it's fan mail or hate mail, which is sometimes even more interesting. This is on our premium service, though, called Rebel News Plus. Go to rebelnewsplus.com. It's $8 a month or less if you buy a whole year in advance. You get my show every weeknight, plus Sheila Gunn Reid's show every week. It's called The Gun Show. It's pretty amazing. You know, we rely on you because we do not take a dime from the government. In Canada, that makes us almost unique. So please help us out and help yourself to some great journalism at rebelnewsplus.com.